evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott, and yes, I'm doing my best impression of Stephen Bassett with the black shirt on tonight. How are you all doing? We're glad to bring back Jon Sumple tonight. He is visiting us all the way from South Africa, and his new documentary with J3 Films, The Extraordinary, The Revelations. Now, if you haven't seen a Jon Sumple ET UFO series yet, this is part 3. The guy's incredible. We're going to get into that momentarily. I got to leave a little bit on the hook before we get to the show, and so that's what we're doing. He's in the background waiting, and we will say a quick hello to race fan in the gold medal position. The gorgeous Aussie Ange takes home the silver. Andrew trucking on down to a bronze medal tonight. Thank you, Andrew. Appreciate you. The lovely and talented Cosmic Fleur is here. Hello, gorgeous Jenny Metz. Joe Ortegon, good to see you. Mama Susan, thank you for coming on in. We appreciate you. And where am I here? Joe Leone, welcome to our chat room for the first time. Thank you for joining us. The Ronald Penton is here, everyone. The Ronald Penton. Stewpot, Gregory Smith, how are you? SJ, good to see you. Dirty Filth, nice to have you here. Mennonite Abe. And Worsley is here. Worsley, by the way, will be signing autographs after the show. Line up to the left of the studio, if you don't mind, to the left of the studio. Mark Salzman and Jay Breezy, good to see you guys. Thanks for coming on in. Appreciate you. Chad Smith, thank you so much for kicking off the super chat tonight. Always appreciate your love and support of this radio show. Edens, welcome back, man. And Mark Rademacher and the lovely Michelle C., and thank you for coming on in. Steve Stockton from KPNL. He'll be signing autographs after the show. Line up to the right of the studio, if you don't mind, to the right. Sultry Susie, good to have you back. And Bassmaster, Travis DeLuca, how are you? Jack Clark, thanks for coming on in. The gorgeous Jessica McCreary has returned, everyone. Give us a wave, Jessica. Ozzy, oi, oi to you. The Michael Leger has arrived. The Michael Leger, the creator of this gnome right here. Still love that gnome, Michael. Still love it. Fapster, good to see you. Millennium. And the gorgeous Manitoba Becky has arrived. Yes, they don't call her the Wheat Queen for nothing. The lovely and talented Minister Elaine Sloan has returned. Magnus, gorgeous Candy. Sally Van de Voorde, the Duchess of Dutchland, right there. A Grandmaster, J. Fox Hunter, gorgeous Bat Mom, Nicola, nice to see you all. Paul Holland, or should I say Grand Paul Holland, once again. How's your little baby girl? How's she doing? Give us an update if you don't mind. Hi, lovely Shar. How are you? Hey, there he is. Meaty Toes, right there, UAP Toronto. Apollo 11, good to see you. Thanks for coming on in. Angela Wilbert, welcome to our channel. Thank you for listening. We really appreciate that. Ozzy, sister. Dick Daigle's back, everyone. Dick Daigle. Yes, former NHL first-round bust in 1993, Dick Daigle. Drake, good to see you. Poetically mistaken, Big Bad Devin right there. Sam Faz, welcome to the show. Hey, Mark Fountain, good to see you again. Thank you for coming on in. I think we are almost caught up here, people. I think we're almost caught up. Mike in Manitoba, good to see you. Manimal, where you been hiding? Double Tim, nice to see you. Little Deborah, good to have you back. Jello and Sean, thank you for coming on in. And let's see here. Magnus, how are you? Jimmy Singer, welcome to Spaced Out Radio. Thank you for joining us. Let me just get this part done. Bigfoot, Michigan Rob, thank you for joining us. And Solar Warden, good to see you. And let's see, who else we got here? Yeah, Meaty Toes is here, so you know it's a good night every time Meaty Toes is here. And let's see. I think we're caught up. I think we're officially caught up right now. Oh, Susan Ahern from Provincetown, Massachusetts, one of the most beautiful places in America. Yes. Hi, Susan. Good to see you. What are you doing up so late? Yes. Love her. She's got a gorgeous little psychic shop right in the main drag of Provincetown. And she hangs out with great white sharks. We got 30 seconds away before we are going to launch. Jon Sumple is our guest tonight. There he is, everyone. His hair is looking fantastic for like 5:30 in the morning there. or 6 o'clock in the morning. Alien Critter, good to see you. Great way to support this show is through the Super Chat. And if you're new, hit that subscribe button, ring that bell so you know when we are live 7 days a week, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern. And thank you to all the veterans out there who listen to our show. Here we go, everyone. From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show and our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. You can follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our websites. We got a great show for you tonight, as Jon Sumple is one of 3 co-founders of J3 Films, along with partners Jack Roth and Jamie Sernoff. Jon began dabbling in visual storytelling in the late 1980s, submitting videos to the 89 and 90 Fort Lauderdale International Film Festival Off the Wall Amateur Video Contest. Since then, well, he's grown. J3 Films has stepped in to the extraterrestrial realm with their Extraordinary series. Their latest, The Revelations, is about addressing the implications and detailing the origins of ET contact, abductions, and the hybridization program. Every piece of woo that we absolutely love on this show. Jon Sumple, it's been a couple of years since we had you on Spaced Out Radio, but you're a good friend of the show, and thank you so much for waking up early in South Africa to do this show with us tonight here in North America. We really do appreciate it, my friend.
Well, thanks for having me. It's every 2 years, I think we do this.
It is. It's every 2 years.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that big shout out to Lori, because Lori Wagner is a good friend of yours, good friend of ours here. And when she told me, she's like, would you be interested in having Jon Sumple back on the show talking about the new Extraordinary film? I'm like, yes. I don't even think I'd let her finish the sentence, to be honest. Jon, yeah, go ahead, please.
I was going to say, Lori's a big part of our process, too. She's actually executive producer of this film. So we're thrilled that she was willing to play a bigger role. And she's kind of the fourth J, or the 3 J's and an L.
It works. It
works
works.
for us.
She's a brilliant person in this field. She really is, and highly respected, highly connected. We love her around here too. I want to ask you, when you started getting into films in the late 80s, did you ever think it would take an extraterrestrial turn?
Absolutely not. Not remotely close to that. There was this vision in my head at that time that I was going to move my way into short films, and then eventually into potentially more of a long form scripted format. But I got waylaid by the paranormal. Jack Roth and I started doing some stuff back in the mid-90s. He actually pulled me into it, had an opportunity to work on a show idea that we developed in, it was like 97. It was called The Hauntings, and it was basically what television became several years later, which is being on location with psychics and with paranormal investigators and capturing situations live. So Most Haunted kind of stole our idea and took it big time several years later. But yeah, at the time when we pitched it, nobody was interested in that format. And lo and behold, we were before our time. But it was 10 years later before we had more conversations about doing content again. Jack was going to be doing a roadshow idea throughout the Southwest and wanted to know if I wanted to jump along with a camera and document it for him. And I was more than happy to. And that got waylaid once we had an opportunity to explore the Stan Romanek project. So it just took off from there. And no, I never ever expected to be doing this.
You know what? How much has it changed the way you look at film when you are doing documentaries on extraterrestrials and ET contact?
I think the biggest, to put it out there, it was not a subject that I was super interested in diving into. I've always been curious about it. I had sightings when I was younger. I lived in southwestern Connecticut, and there was a lot of sightings in that area when I was younger. So I was fortunate enough to have that. Always had a curiosity about space. My dad was involved with a company that built the landing touchdown button on the first lunar module on the moon. So he was fascinated with space and kind of brought me into that realm. So there was that open-mindedness about the vastness of space, and the whole idea of us being alone seemed preposterous to me even as a young kid. But I've never looked at it as a hook, line, and sinker thing. I've always looked at it as, let me wander around the perimeter and look at the inside, look from the outside in. And I think that provides us particularly with a unique perspective, because I never have completely immersed myself as a dyed-in-the-wool believer with a megaphone type of thing. It's more, I think it's healthier to have someone in our filmmaking process be a little bit of an outsider looking in, not with a skeptic eye, but with a discerning eye, and that's worked so far.
Has it been very difficult not to jump down the rabbit hole like so many of us have, considering the stories of the people you have met?
Yeah, when I first got asked to get involved with the Stan Romanek project, I knew nothing about Stan. I knew very little about what would be considered modern day ufology. And I went to Project Camelot and just started watching videos. And I watched, I think, hours of Dan Burrish interviews, and I was gobsmacked. I just was like, I got a lot of catching up to do to find out what's been going on in this realm for all these years. But it helped give me a perspective. I can say the rabbit hole is very deep, and I've only gone down so far to make sure that I know enough about what's going on, but also to keep that curiosity. I think the value that I'm bringing to the table from a storytelling point of view is that, well, what does this all mean? Where is this going? How do you explain that without having all the answers? So we take that approach, is that we don't know the answers, and I don't think anybody definitively does. So it's great to explore them and ask the questions.
So for you, have you become a believer then, Jon?
Oh, I definitely have. I look at it more from a cosmic perspective, is that the vastness of the universe, it's ludicrous for us to think that we're alone. I believe that we're all part of the same cosmic family. We're all, we all came from space dust. We'll all return to space dust. The energy is collective as opposed to individualized. So I've always felt that way. So it's interesting to explore it from a perspective that is focusing on specific phenomena, because I look at it from a much, much bigger perspective, that it's collective. It's all connected, whether it's interdimensional or a presence here on this planet. It is the vastness, and our understanding of it is minimal.
Jon,
exploration.
As an outsider getting into this field, how did you know who to reach out to and to find the right people to get connected with?
That I would say my first exposure to the realm was going to I think it was when Bob Brown had the International UFO Congress in Laughlin, and I went to, I think it was back in 2010. So I was introduced to quite a few people during that process. So I got to know a little bit more about who was who, and we kind of fumbled our way through it a little bit in the beginning, because we didn't know all the right people to speak to, but we learned very quickly. And when we met Lori Wagner in 2011, she had tons of connections, and that kind of just opened the floodgates. And now I feel pretty confident in saying that we have connections to a lot of the biggest influencers within the industry. And that's been extremely valuable from an education and connection and contacts and conversation and education for me too.
So basically you lucked out.
I got very lucky. I feel
I don't mean,
fortunate.
I don't mean that as an insult. Please don't.
No. It's one of those things where it's like you start rolling the ball and it picks up its own momentum and it's on its way. There's no stopping it. So it has been a fantastic journey of awareness, education, and flipping over those rocks to see what's under them.
When you get involved in this field and you kind of have 1 foot in and 1 foot out at all times, you're one of the lucky ones, unlike me, who's dived right into the deep end with no remorse. Do you look at yourself as a skeptic still regarding these subjects, or has your mind opened up?
Yeah, I don't think I would ever have called myself a skeptic. I think I would have looked at it as I need something to help me better understand the possibility. So when I first got involved with the paranormal side through Jack Roth, who's been a paranormal investigator, he started doing that in the 90s. So I learned a lot through him, and discernment was very, very important. The whole idea there was that the very first thing you should do is to prove that something is wrong, prove where that was coming from. Where is that cold draft coming from? How can you explain it away first? And if you exhaust all of those possibilities of what it could be, then you possibly have stumbled onto something worthy of further documentation and exploration. So that's the way I've kind of approached this as well. And it's not with skepticism, it's more with this kind of open-eyed wonder and curiosity to say, and to present the stories that we've done it in a way that it is not targeting, and this is not meant to offend anybody, is that it's not targeting the people who already believe, because you already believe. We don't need to convince anybody who's already there and mentally in that mindset. Our objective has always been to reach the widest audience possible, which means storytelling to people who might not know all the details or have done the heavy lifting that so many have. So our objective really from the very beginning was to bring the conversation from out of the shadows and into the light, and not pander to the fringes who are already firmly entrenched.
Right. Jon Sumple is our guest tonight from J3 Films. Extraordinary, The Revelations is the next film up on the docuseries. Jon, in regards to starting this documentary, one thing that I have been fascinated with the work you guys have done is you went bang right into the experiencers. You didn't dabble with, Roswell. You didn't dabble with Area 51. You didn't dabble with Washington, D.C. and the Pentagon. You went right at it, right to the experiencers. And that is so rare for anybody to do in this field, because everybody always wants to start off small just to get that audience reaction. Yet you went right deep into the woo right off the bat.
Well, and I think the reason why we chose to go into that side and look at it from the perspective is because there's a human element to this that has been completely ignored, in our opinion, that we wanted to make sure that we treated these individuals, these experiencers, these branded lunatics by the extreme skeptics, that they're going through something that anybody who's ever been through some sort of trauma can relate to. But yet this is something that is relegated as being nonsense. And we felt that it's really important to focus on the human side. So the first film, the Stan Romanek story, was focused more on an individual's experience, from seeing lights in the sky to having abductions, to be part of hybridization programs, and to move to hybrid children. So that kind of took you through that journey. And going through that process, one of the things that we discovered was that so many people responded to that film and that approach, having the humanistic side, that we received thousands of messages and emails basically saying, thank you for telling this story. I now realize I'm not alone. Thank you. I feel that seeing this means that I'm not crazy, that there's other people out there like me. I mean, just so many messages, and they continue to this day, but that opened the floodgates for us. And it made us realize that there's a much larger population that is struggling with, telling their story and revealing this. And if they internalize it too much, it can be destructive. So that's why the second film was focused more on the individuals. The ultimate goal of the second film was to do two things: raise the bar on compassion and understanding of individuals that are going through this, and also let those individuals who have had experience, when they see this, say things, and realize that they're not alone, that they can seek groups to talk to and others to talk to and tell their stories. And again, to this day, I just got an email yesterday from somebody who said, "Thank you so much. I just watched the seating and it resonated with me so much. I feel like it's opened the doors to what has happened to me, and I'm going to explore it further. And I never would have connected with that at this level had it not been for the film." So many different types of responses over the last 2 years to that film. And it was definitely something that resonated from an emotional point of view, which is ultimately the goal. And I have to say, I know Melinda Leslie's probably watching. Melinda was the heart and soul of the film, and she really drove home the compassion component of the film. And she'll remember this to this day. I had tears forming in my eyes as I was interviewing her, because of how succinct she put the human side of this, and how important it was for people to understand that the trauma is real. And if you keep it hidden and you finally tell somebody and they don't believe you, you have the trauma all over again. So the risk of sharing your story is profound. But if more and more people are exposed to it, if we have the ability to reach the masses and convince people to be more receptive, to be more compassionate, to be more open, and encouraging people who have had these experiences to come forward, then we're doing something, we think, positive to the overall health of people who've had these experiences.
Was Melinda responsible for you going on the experiencer journey rather than the UFO rambling journey that everybody else has gone on?
No, it really started with Stan's story. Jack Roth was in Denver for a Stephen Greer event and met Chuck Zukowski and Alejandro, and he had a conversation with them over dinner one night, and they told him about Stan's story because was sharing his desire to do some documentary filmmaking. And they were like, "Well, you should check out this story." And long story short, it just opened the door to where we are today. So that was another one of those kismet moments where you're in the right place at the right time and introduced to the right story, right, that helps you kind of open the doors.
But how do you all of a sudden make that decision as a filmmaker? Because there's so many interesting stories out there, Jon. There's millions. All right. But it also comes down to budget and money. Because sure, in the end, you're a filmmaker. You're not doing this for free. You're wanting to tell a great story, blow the socks off your viewership, and you're hopefully going to make a few bucks, at least break even on the project. That is the goal. Anything else would be, a happy party, that's for sure. Right. Okay, so why take a chance on the experiencers when nobody had gone down that road?
Well, the interesting part, regardless of what you think of Stan Romanek, this is not about, judging his character as much as it was about looking at his story and looking at the evidence. So when we were first introduced to him and had the initial phone conversation, there was a lot of reservations on our part and tons on his. He didn't trust anybody. And he had been burned before, and he had been through things with Nightline, or I think it was Nightline, ABC Nightline, and had been dragged through the mud and with the stuff with Peck and on the, what's his name, Larry King show. And so he was very, very skeptical of engaging with somebody unless he truly believed that they were going to serve his story with a sense of openness, as opposed to trying to judge and manipulate the story. So we spent a lot of time with Stan in phone calls, and we went out to Colorado twice to meet with him and his family and the people that have been involved with his case before we made a decision that we were going to move through with it. And he had to approve us as much as we had to approve him. And after we had a chance to spend a week going through the mounds of evidence that he had, we felt that this was a story worth pursuing. And when we started the interview process, what became very apparent to me was the emotional component. and to spend more time focusing on the emotional impact of being an experiencer as opposed to the phenomena, because there's so much out there about the phenomena, but very little attention is spent to people's emotions and how it impacts their lives. And Lisa Romanek was incredible during the interview. Another moment where there wasn't a dry eye in the room that day that we interviewed her, because she told me before the interview, I'm going to be honest and I'm going to share things that I've never told anybody before, because it's time for me to open up about this. And we were, again, fortunate, right place, right time. And the level of honesty and emotion that came through in that moment was pure.
Outside of what happened to Stan Romanek after the documentary was done, because that's been highly publicized about his court cases and everything like that. Did you leave him after the documentary, when you got all the filming done and all the editing done? Did you believe that he was telling the truth about his stories and experiences?
Well, the way I looked at it at that point was there was so much evidence. There were so many components of it that could probably be explained, but there's so much that wasn't. And Jack Sikowski in the film said that, there's so much evidence here that even if 25% of it is accurate and the rest isn't, it's profound. It's still profound because there's so much. And that's one of the things that we felt, too, is that there was just so much of it that, in my mind too, and spending as much time as I did, with Stan, both in his presence and so much time on telephones and conversations with him. Why would anybody choose this ridicule? Why would they want to be in the spotlight for all of these reasons, to be open to attack? So I just, if you spent as much time as we did with him, I think you would have a different perspective. That's not to say that what happened after the fact was I can't explain that away, and that's something that wound up really hurting us as far as the opportunity to promote the film. Initially, we had just everything fell apart for us right after that happened, and we had to self-distribute the film, and we were in discussions with other distributors that were interested in the film, and they just walked away. And we were told that the only way that we could get the film out is if we recut it, focusing on the story today. And it's like, that's not the story that we want to tell. We want to tell about what happened to him between 2000 and 2010. So that was our choice, and we continued to move forward with it from that perspective. And several years later, we get a phone call out of the blue from the Orchard saying we're interested in distributing the film because we're shocked that it doesn't exist anywhere. How is it possible that this film has been out for a few years and it hasn't been pirated? It doesn't exist anywhere. And we were fortunate that when we set it up for distribution, that our one of our partners in that, Richie Holland, helped us by seeding the film title out on YouTube with one of Stan's recorded presentations. So people picked that up and started using that as the basis of the film, and that's what got pirated. And our film just kind of sat there all by itself, and nobody did anything with it. So that was our again, a lucky break for us, and it got picked up by 1091.
I'm going to get you to hold on right there, because we're going to continue on. We're going to go to break here at the bottom of the hour. Jon Sumple from J3 Films, j3films.com. Extraordinary, the revelations. We continue on learning about ETs right after this. All right, we're clear. We got about 5 minutes here, okay?
Okay.
Yes.
So far, so good?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you've almost cracked a smile twice.
It's early. It's early.
I know. I got woken up this morning. I know exactly how you feel, because I got woken up this morning, and I have my alarm usually set for 7:45 to get ready for my daytime job. And I got a call at 6:45 asking if I would go on the radio in Vancouver to talk about space and UFOs and stuff. And I'm like, yeah, like this was out of the blue. I'd never done this radio show before, but I mean, a person in my position, you can't say no to that, you know, and so apparently because I've talked UFOs on their radio station a couple of times now, I know all about Jeff Bezos and everything that he's doing. I didn't even realize he was launching today. And I'm like, so I had to quickly come up with something for that. But yeah, that was an early wake-up call. So I know what you're going through. And
well, my phone rang at 2:00. I believe it was you.
That was me. That was me. I didn't know
wife,
you were. I didn't
my
know
wife
you were
launched
over there.
out of bed like what? That we had I was totally disoriented. I didn't know what that sound was.
I'm sorry.
Well, I didn't shut my ringer off, so that's the reason why. But
that's my fault. I'll take blame for that one.
No, it's all good. All good.
I'll take the blame and apologize to your wife for me if you don't mind.
She fell right back to sleep. I didn't, but she did.
Yes. Because I had no idea you were over there. If you listen to my first voicemail, I said, I think you're still in California right now.
No. It's been a while.
Yeah, you're not in California.
No, we've been here in Cape Town since just before Christmas.
Wow. That is awesome. That is awesome. And you're having fun there? Are you near a lot of wild animals and everything?
Oh, we actually took some time a couple weeks back and went up to Kenya for a safari, and that was incredible. The best part, anybody who's ever done it can relate to this, especially if they were at the Masai Mara, is that it is vast and you feel so small, so insignificant, and it's incredibly quiet. No airplanes, no cars. You hear nothing but the breeze through the grasses and an occasional bird chirping and maybe a roar of an animal or a stampede of stuff that might be running from a predator. So yeah, it was pretty amazing.
Well, Dandy Meyer, our guest from a couple of weeks ago, she lives, I believe, in the northern part of South Africa. And she's like, oh yeah, every now and again we got zebras walking down. There's big fences, but sometimes people leave the fence gates open, and it was no surprise. All of a sudden, walk around and there's a lion. There's a there's a wildebeest. She goes, can't go to any lakes around here because they're all filled with crocodiles and venomous snakes. Yeah,
we had the one of the camps that we stayed at. We had zebra right outside our tent in the morning eating grass. So it is something that it's mind blowing when you're in that moment. It's really cool.
Yeah, that is awesome. Good for you for doing that, though. That's awesome.
No, we're enjoying.
Stay out of the ocean. Stay out of the ocean. There's a lot of great whites around there.
Yeah, there is. It's well, they have the expeditions where you can go down in a shark cage and meet the great whites. I'm good. I'll be like, no, I'm good. I'm up here. When the little short story, when I was a kid, I wanted to be Jacques Cousteau. I love Jacques Cousteau. I watched every Nova program that he was on. And I was at 11 years old, I was already looking into universities for oceanography. I was doing my research as an 11-year-old then. And then I went and saw Jaws when I was 12, and that changed everything.
Yeah. There's just no need.
That.
No, there's no need. Can't even go in a river because the hippos, the crocs, or the damn bull sharks coming up will get you.
I took wide circles around puddles after seeing that movie.
Yeah.
When I was 12. Yeah, it was.
I was 7. My sisters forced me to watch it at 7. Horrible, horrible sisters. But I know the feeling. Oh, terrible. I'm not going into the cage. And then we had our guest last night, a guy named Max Hawthorne. He doesn't believe that Megalodon is still alive, but he believes there is this hybrid mega shark that is out there that is really, really big, like 25 to 35 feet. That's causing not going in the ocean. Fuck that. Pardon my language. But all right. I'm going to get you to hold on right there. Big thank you to Minister Elaine, Kat, Apollo, Fapster, and Chad for the super chats. Here we go, everyone. Here we go with the second half hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears. Want to remind you that if you've missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. We continue on tonight with Jon Sumple from J3 Films and j3films.com. Extraordinary, The Revelations is what we're going to get into next hour. But John, welcome back to the show. And Melinda Leslie has just entered our chat room on YouTube.
Saw her name pop up.
Yes, we love Melinda. Your ears must have been burning because we were literally talking all about you for a couple of minutes in the last half hour of the show. And we were talking about how much we love you. So thank you for listening in tonight. Really appreciate it. And I know you wanted to say something to Melinda too.
No, I just, she was the one that kind of brought the whole emotional component to a head in the second film, The Seeding, and it was a profound moment, as she recalls. I don't know if I would say fondly, but she had me on the verge of tears. And after we took a break from that segment, she says, "Were you about to cry?" I'm like, I was fighting back tears for 5 minutes. So yeah, it was profound. It was something that I'll never forget.
All right, you go from Stan Romanek and his story, and you go straight into the hybridization program with The Seeding. How did that happen? How do you go from that one extreme of ET contact to another extreme where you're trying to explain on film to people that regular everyday people are being abducted by aliens and literally being used as hybrid children makers?
Right.
Bad terminology. I apologize.
No, that was interesting too, because when we were working on the first film, we were introduced to Sierra Neblina, and Jack and I spent a couple of hours with her one night, and that was the first time I had ever heard of this phenomena of these unexplained pregnancies, and it blew me away. And at that moment, we were still in production on the first film, and I said to Jack, this has got to be our next film, that we focus on this component. And the big question was, how many people out there have had this happen? And once we started doing research, it was so many people that had very few that wanted to go on the record. That was the biggest challenge. We screened, I think, about 45 different people that we learned a lot about their personal stories and what they had been through. And several of them opted out, it was too emotional, too raw for them. A few that we decided against using as well, and primarily because their stories were not fantastic. It's just that part of storytelling is making sure that you have a good story and someone who could tell their story well. So we settled on the people that we had in the film because we felt that they were strong storytellers of their personal story. So that kind of led us to the cast that we had, and it was, again, a fascinating journey in spending the time with the individuals that we spent for that film.
Did you believe this was actually something that was going on after you heard from Sierra Neblina? Sorry, former guest too. I should be remembering that.
I had no space in my head for that concept until she talked about it that night. So then it became, a curiosity of, well, how prevalent is this? And then again, starting to meet people again, big thanks to Lori and working with Yvonne Smith and Barbara Lamb and identifying people that would be interested in being in the film, led us to all these incredible stories. And it was one of those things that it's, I think every single person that we screened, we talked to for at least an hour, maybe up to 2 hours. And each one of them it was an emotional roller coaster to have these conversations, and almost every single person that we spoke with was emotional. So we were going through this process of what really hit home in those moments was these people are going through something profound. We may not be able to understand what it is because we haven't been in their shoes, but that doesn't mean that they didn't have the experience. And that became kind of a big part of that film, was just because we can't explain it, we don't feel it, doesn't mean it didn't happen to us. You know, I said this during the promotions that we did for the film then, was we know people who go through profound experiences. Melinda talked about it in the film. They go through cancer. They have deaths in the family. They have brutal breakups with relationships, and we'll be there for them. We help them get through that. We may not be able to relate to it, but we're there for them. But when people come to you and share this type of a story, they reveal this to you, and so many people don't know what to do with it, or just turn a blind eye. They're not there for them. So that was very important and involved during the process of making the film, that the heart and soul of the film was being compassionate.
What was your biggest learning lesson from the seeding?
I think there was several. I think the biggest lesson that I learned was that once people feel comfortable talking about their story amongst other people who have shared experiences, it's a family. They might not even know each other until the moment they're put in the same room or on the same phone call. But then when all of these commonalities are present, they connect very, very quickly. And I think that what we hoped that would happen is that as people who've had experiences saw the film, they would be compelled to find their little circle of family and friendships that could evolve, and support can be provided through people who have been through what they've been through, or who understand or are compassionate people as well. So, and we definitely experienced that when we saw the response to the film. So many people responded saying, "Thank you so much. I'm now looking for someone that could regress me. I'm now talking to friends," and part of it too is family members. It's a generational thing, and several people that we talked to said, as a result of what I saw, I started having conversations with family members and found out all of this stuff that I knew nothing about, and now it helps me better understand what's been happening to me. So again, that's why I think we do what we do, is because we know that it has an impact on the individuals who watch the films.
I remember talking to Geraldine Orozco about this and other experiences that she has. And one of the toughest parts when it gets to anything like you did with Extraordinary, the seeding, is finding men to talk about it, because men are supposed to be rough, gruff, tough, not allowed to be raped or pillaged by some menial extraterrestrial. And that what was happening. Did you find a very tough time finding men who wanted to participate in this?
Yeah, for that very reason, and a few of the people that we did speak to felt broken as a result of that. And once they put on the veneer of being strong, but when you get them in the quiet moment and they talk about it, it's a debilitating experience for them. And that's not to say that it's not for women either. I think it is, but for whatever reason, for the way that we project in society that men are strong and they need to be able to stand up for that type of stuff, I completely disagree. I think that we're all going through the human experience in our own individual ways. And when we have speed bumps or massive, transformations, we should be able to discuss those. And if we've helped encourage that a little bit, I think that's a good thing. But finding the male counterparts was indeed a challenge. And Rob Fullington wound up being a good fit because his was more about consciousness, and that could have been a whole nother film in and of itself. But I think the message with that was that the hybridization programs aren't just traditional egg and seed type of things. There's other ways that there's DNA capture, there's consciousness transformation and sharing, so many more different channels that we didn't explore in the film or give as much bandwidth to, because you only have a limited amount of time. But I think we scratched the surface a little bit with Rob's story.
What would be your message to people who've experienced what people have experienced, what you filmed with the seeding?
Two things is that you're not alone. You're definitely not alone. We're talking hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people who've been through the same thing that you've been through. And the other thing would be to don't keep it inside. If it's tearing you apart, if it's something that you feel like you need answers to, find somebody. And we have on our website, j3films.com, there's a support page that was made specifically after that film, with a list of the people that are in the film, and also a list of other support groups and therapists that can help with that. So if there's anybody out there that feels like they need a resource to turn to, we provide quite a few names and connections on our website.
That's very cool. Now, I want to save the revelations for the next hour, and I just want to kind of continue on this road for a second. For those who don't know about the hybridization program that is in Extraordinary the Seeding, could you maybe take a couple of minutes to break that down for people?
Well, there's a couple of the simplest approach is that a lot of women are abducted when they're young, and some sort of a monitoring device is placed in their body, and when they reach a certain age, when they're producing eggs, they are then targeted as a producer, and the woman will be abducted. Some sort of fertilization process can occur. With the people we talked to, there were physical penetration, impregnation processes, along with more, I would say, intro, or what's the word? Drawing a blank right now, but the whole external fertilization process in vitro. So the women are then impregnated and brought back after they've been abducted, and they're allowed to gestate the child to a certain age, and then they're abducted again. The child is then removed, and they're brought back, and they basically wake up and it's missing. And every single one of the women that we spoke to, both in the film and outside of the film, said that they knew that it wasn't a miscarriage. There was no evidence of a miscarriage. It was just gone. And most of them were in that 3-4 month time frame when that occurred. And in Geraldine's case, it happened several times. And she said that she's, every single time it happened, there's a pain that's associated with that, both physically and mentally. So it's not something that, again, people like this, why would they tell that story in a public forum for all the world to see and judge and ridicule in some cases, if it wasn't true to them? What do they gain by that? I think the people that were in the film, what they were brave enough to do is help other people by telling their stories, and that I commend them for.
It is one of the toughest psychological issues that I have had the pleasure of discussing with a lot of these experiencers who've had a tough time coming out with their experiential stories about being part of the human hybridization program. I mean, when you see young women in their, late 20s, early 30s who claim to have had, these false pregnancies on the normal side of things, 20 to 30 plus times. I mean, these women are being used and abused there, Jon.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, one of the things that we were unfortunately not able to do is get a physician to go on the record, but we did get close with a couple of people. And the ones that we did speak to did acknowledge that they had witnessed these type of events. They had patients who had been through this. But the challenge with somebody who's in the medical field is that it is a death knell to their practice if they were to go on the record with something like this. So we started looking for people who were older, that might be towards the end of their careers or retired, and seeing if they were willing to go on the record. And we had a couple of leads that just didn't pan out. People bailed. It was the hardest part, to be honest with you, of making the film, because we felt it was important to have that side of the equation represented in the film, but we couldn't get anybody to go on the record.
Do you think that's going to change with what's happened recently with all the UFO talk coming out of Washington, D.C. and the Pentagon?
I think there already has been a change. I think that, and that's a great kind of segue into a little bit about the film that we're doing now, is that there's such a preponderance of evidence and a preponderance or willingness of governments to share more readily the information that has been at their disposal for decades. And I think what we're starting to see now is that the information is intentionally being released because it's softening, the globe, the inhabitants of the globe, to the idea that we are not alone. And I think that it's intentional. I think that it is, and that's a big part of what this film talks about, is what's happening right now, and how things are being released and why they're being released at this time.
How will that affect the way that you do not only revelations, but future films as well?
Well, I think, we've been waiting for this big grand announcement. Now, I think it was supposed to come out last month, and now we're hearing things about this month, and it hasn't happened yet. So the timing of our film, the third film, works out perfectly with everything that's going on right now, because even though we did the interviews for this film a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, and pandemic-related delays, we were hoping to have the film out last fall, but we had a lot of challenges with that. I think that from a timing point of view, though, it's set up very nicely for the storytelling that we're going to be sharing, because what we were learning back then is coming to fruition now. And it is, I think, the timing of all of this release of information is, you should be scratching your head, if you're not already, wondering why now. And based on what we learned through the course of making the third film, is that the hands are being pushed. They're being forced to kind of do something, because the access to information and the hunger for the information and the need for private industry that is leveraging some of the information. There needs to be much more of a conversation and awareness in setting the table for an eventual disclosure.
5 minutes ago, before we got to go to break at the top of the hour, Jon Sumple from J3 Films is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. Has the reaction to your first two films from the public, never mind the UFO field, but from the public, been that they didn't understand that this much of the phenomena was happening?
I think because we intentionally made a film that was accessible to the masses, that the storytelling is something that emotional storytelling resonates with anybody. It's your choice about what you believe, and our intention was to get it to a point where the people who may not have thought a lot about it would think a little bit deeper. The people who were not exposed to it at all would have questions, and we've seen that. We've had that experience. So I think that it is having an impact on people and their consciousness and their awareness. And it might not necessarily be everyday water cooler conversation, but I think it's seeping into the consciousness in a way that it never has before. When you look back at the way that it was presented in the media from the 40s all the way through, I would say even 5 to 7 years ago, it was always perceived as something that was hokey. Whenever the word, and Nick Pope talks about this in the third film, is that the word flying saucer was intentionally used because it could be easily looked at as something that was discredited. So flying saucers had kind of a negative annotation to it. So that's why the media and that's why governments used it, because they know it had a sense of kind of tinfoil hat to it. So it was intentional. So now we're getting completely different stories. The stories now are, we're aware that something's happening, we're not quite sure what it is. And that is completely different than what has been discussed, in by governments and in the media in the past. So there's this sense of, it's almost as a matter of that people were following along for decades and kind of aware that this was going on, but nobody wanted to say anything profound about it and put it out there, and then that starts dripping out there in small portions, and the people who have been believers or curious about it are now looking for more information, and as they learn more, they accept it more. So it really does feel like the soft disclosure that's going on right now is just, by the time we get to the point where there's spaceships on the front lawn of the White House, people are going to be like, yeah, there's spaceships on the front lawn of the White House. Whereas 20 years ago, it would be pandemonium.
It's amazing how the public perception is starting to change. Maybe not so much in the mainstream media as of yet, but there is a shift of the focus on the entire subject. So with it becoming more popular and mainstream, how important now does your filming become for J3 Films when people want that non-cookie cutter UFO Discovery Channel story?
Well, there's a place for that. I think there are a lot of people who are hungry for evidence and they just want to see more of it. And the one thing that we constantly hear all the time is that, here we are in 2021, and we have amazing phones and with amazing cameras, and we still get blurry photos and blurry videos, and to me, I feel like we're so far past that. I don't need the evidence, the visual evidence anymore. I want to have, to me, the evidence, the real evidence that's out there, and Dr. David Jacobs talks about this, is the people, the evidence that the people who've had the experiences can be corroborated. He said that's enough evidence for me. And I would agree with him that when you have people saying the same things over and over who know nothing about each other's individual experiences, why are we not looking at that? Why is that not being taken into consideration? So when it's done right, the way that Bud Hopkins did, the way that Dr. Jacobs did, you start to look at the evidence from a completely different perspective, because I see that as admissible evidence to the conversation. And there are people, I think, who believe that as well. It's got to be credible. It has to be, what makes Dr. Jacobs' evidence and the research that he's done over the last several decades is that he did it for free. He didn't charge anything. He did everything that he did, all the regressions that he did. I think he did over, 3,500 to 4,000 different regressions of, over 600 people in his 20, 30 years doing it, and never charged a penny.
I'm going to get you to hold on right there because we are going to go to break here at the top of the hour. Jon Sumple is here. Extraordinary, The Revelations, going to be coming out real soon from J3 Films. You can check it out at j3films.com. And I'll tell you, we are going to get right into it next. Black Projects, ET Contact. What does the government know? What do they not know? We're in for a great second hour here on Spaced Out Radio. Jon Sumple is our guest. We'll be back with more of the Mighty SOR coming up right after this. All right, I'm going to put you on mute. We got about 6 minutes, and then I'm just going to run my dogs out, okay?
Okay, I'm going to run to the restroom.
Be right back. All right, people, be right back. Don't go anywhere. Radio show happening. And I like my shirt. All right, give me 2 seconds here. Get you back here.
Couldn't have timed that more perfectly. We both sat down at the exact same time.
No kidding. No kidding. Oh, hey, Clam. How are you?
Great engagement with your audience, too. It's great.
Thank you. Thank you. Right now, there's 157 people watching live, 155 on YouTube.
That's great.
Yeah. Thank you.
Well, let's do a little while we're waiting here. How many people out there have had experiences? Just kind of
the majority.
Thumbs up.
Yeah.
Thumbs up.
Yeah. If you've had any type of weird alien experience or UFO experience, give a thumbs up in the chat room, if you don't mind. Broski, how you doing on Twitter, man? And here come the thumbs up.
There
Hi,
they
Tewaz. Greco, Opa to you, my friend. How are you? We've got about 1 minute.
Okay. You know, and I would say that with all those thumbs up, it's this community is what is important, I think, is to have this space and have the opportunity to listen and talk and engage, even if it's just a chat. It definitely helps. That's one thing that some of the people that we spoke to that didn't wind up in the film, the isolation was so profound and so sad.
Right.
And it was something that we felt we have to give people out there who are not ready to talk yet hope that
absolutely. I'm going to get you to hold on. I'm going to get you to hold on because we got 10 seconds to go. Thank you for the super chats to Cat Chaser, Minister Elaine, Apollo, Fabster, and Chad. Hi, Bob Birkins. How are you? Travis DeLuca, 416 Data Derivations. How are you doing?
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. Really do appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Thank you to everyone tuning us in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America and digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Gomphiasis. Gomphiasis is your password. Use it wisely, space travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. We continue on tonight from J3 Films and j3films.com and the extraordinary series. Jon Sumple is with us, and we are going to get into his brand new documentary that's about to be released very, very soon called The Revelation. Jon, welcome back.
Thank you for having me. It's been fun so far. Look forward to continuing the conversation.
When is The Revelation going to be released?
Well, we're in final stages of post-production right now. We have some target timeframes to hit in order to release this year. So we're not quite at a point where we can say here's the date. It's either going to be sometime in late October, or if it's not late October, it's going to be January, because it doesn't make sense to release during November, December timeframe. So we're pushing really hard for the October window, but we'll all you need to do is follow us on our Facebook page and or go to the website. All of the updates will be available there based on when it will be coming out. We will have a trailer soon to release for the film, and I think that will help kind of stoke the fires a little bit and give a little sneak peek as to who we have in the film and what they'll be talking about.
So what are we getting into with the revelation?
Well, we decided to kind of take the story to another level. So we've talked about the personal experiences. So in the first film, it's from lights in the sky to abduction to hybridization programs to hybrid children. Then the second film focuses more on the hybridization programs and hybrids among us, and the personal and emotional connection to that. This film, we felt that it was important to kind of, even though they're standalone films, there is kind of like a trilogy component, because they do work well together, as from the lights in the sky to, is this real? Is this exist? Does the government know about it? And how close are we to disclosure? So the film is broken up into three primary parts. The first part is a historical perspective, a brief introduction into the history of the phenomena. There's plenty of shows out there that dive into it much deeper than we ever will, but we wanted to set the table with the fact that this has been happening, and it's been happening for a long time. There's documented evidence. People saw things in the sky. They recorded what they saw. They had no context of the space realm in the time that they were documenting those things. They just documented what they saw. Then we move into the second act of the film, focuses on the belief paradigms and the different structures. And the point of this section is to say that even though you might not believe in the same construct, you do believe in the foundational elements, which is abductions and hybridization programs and propagation of the species, or an evolution of the species, so to speak. But the three paradigms that we focus on in that part is colonization, and Dr. Jacobs leads that conversation. Mary Rodwell leads the conversation into more of the ascension paradigm. And then we end with the biblical narrative with L.A. Marzulli and Timothy Alberino. So that's the middle act of the film. And again, three very, very different belief structures, but all believe in the same premises, underlying premises. So the message there is that, even though you may believe in something that is a little bit different, sounds very much like religion or politics, but you still believe in some central themes and some central underlying beliefs. You can be a patriot for your country and a strong supporter of nationalism within your country, but you may have a different take on it and a belief system surrounding that. And that's really the point we're trying to make there, is that we're all rowing in the same direction. We just might believe that and understand it a little bit differently. That doesn't discredit the fact that the underlying message is the same. So let's not lose sight of the fact that underlying message is the same. And then the final act focuses on government awareness, whistleblowers. We have Clifford Stone, Dan Sherman, and Lynn Buchanan that talk specifically about their experiences in the military and what roles that they played and the things that they were asked to do on behalf of our government, as it pertains to UFOs and alien encounters, extraterrestrial contact. So kind of the arc of the film is it's been happening for a long time. There's a lot of belief around it, some varieties of beliefs. The government is well aware of it. And where are we right now? How close are we to this being revealed? And the film kind of comes to the conclusion that, we're not alone, and that we are as close to disclosure as we've ever been before. And there's even a comment made that if what's happening right now is the admission of UAPs as being an acknowledgement, then we're already there. It's already happened, but it's been done in such a way that it's not some grand announcement. We're just being led into the belief paradigm by design.
Why do you think that is, that there is some narrative that is going on regarding this?
I think a lot of the research that we did and looking back at some of the things and how they've been presented is that there was always this fear that the public was not ready to learn the truth. And I guess the message there is, well, who gets to decide that? Who's the keeper of our awareness and our ability to deal with the realities? I would say that everybody who's watching and listening to this show right now has a mindset that we're like, bring it on. We're ready. We've been ready. We know it's happening. So who are you protecting? If 50% of the population believes in this, global population, it's probably even higher than that. What are we afraid of? That we're not in control? And that's probably the biggest issue, is who winds up being in control when we're part of a galactic community. You know, the powers of this planet lose control when there's an acknowledgement that there's something else out there that might be bigger and more powerful and more controlling than we are.
See, I am in the belief that the public is not ready. And a few reasons why. I think COVID-19 has been an incredible test on people's strengths, their weaknesses, and what they will put up with and what they won't. The way that people were acting towards each other, you know, whether it was in the malls hoarding toilet paper or milk or meat, or whether it was blowing up at people on social media, you know, and some of the questions that people were offended that people wanted to ask. And I think COVID-19 was an absolute, it has been an absolute eye-opener for how the majority of the public on this planet, never mind Canada or the US or South Africa where you are, where they are going to, how people are going to react. And I don't think it's been favorable. Now, if you all of a sudden throw in the fact that there are extraterrestrials here already at clear present times, and they are now going to show themselves, I can just imagine what the public is going to do. Because we also have to remember that the majority of the population on this planet still prays to a religious deity, no matter what that deity is. And a lot of the good books out there do claim and have been read as anything coming from space is either demonic or the start of Armageddon. Never mind what's going to happen to the economics of the world.
Well, I think my perspective, and this is my personal belief as opposed to something that's portrayed in the film or in any of the research that we've done. It's my personal belief is that we're all from the same source. We're all one anyway, and we're just going to be led to an awareness that is more unifying as a result of this, that gets us to a belief system that is outside of the bubble that we've been led to believe. There's a big control mechanism with this that is, it's much easier for the masses to be led down a desired path when they're controlled. Religion does this. I'm sorry if I offend anybody with that, but religion is primarily a control mechanism. Governments, control mechanisms. Propaganda, news media, control mechanisms. They're whether they're led by a government or by the owners of the institutions. So I have a perspective as well that we have a tendency to be focused on our present moment and how we deal with that present moment. But I would just say, if we look over the history of this planet, there have been disasters far worse than this pandemic, and we have survived. We have come to believe in different awarenesses as a result of the evolution of knowledge. One story that really kind of gave this put this in perspective for me is my wife and I were traveling in Peru. We were in Peru for about 5.5 months, and we spent a lot of time learning about the Incan culture and did a lot of exploration and travel with people who were very knowledgeable. And one of the things that we learned was that when the conquistadors arrived in the Americas and Central and South America, and they encountered what they encountered, and they reported it back to the motherland in Europe, it was perceived at that time as if aliens existed. That this is impossible, that these cultures exist. How could these cultures exist doing what they're doing? It was looked at in the old world in a way that we would look at aliens landing and showing up on the planet. Where did they come from? How is this? How could we not know about this? How do these people exist? So that gave me such a profound perspective, because I was in that moment and talking to people who had experienced that, and talking to people whose great grandparents through oral history had told the stories, that they were not as profoundly impacted, other than the health issues that came with it. The arrival of the conquistadors brought disease with them, but they were not as shocked by the arrival. They had prophetic situations where they believed it was going to happen. And but the message getting back to the masses in Europe was that this is impossible. How can this be? So we've been through it before as a humanity, and I think we'll go through it again in a very similar way, because our eyes are opening to worlds and ideas and dimensions that we do not comprehend today. That doesn't mean they don't exist.
So how do we open up the eyes of people who are still questioning the phenomena?
Well, having opportunities to have these discussions in a way that isn't just pandering or isn't just about the phenomena. I think there's a tremendous amount of focus on the phenomena, because that gets ratings, that gets attention. But having conversations that are a little bit more on the intellectual and spiritual and why we're all here perspective, it definitely helps with that. We're talking about a planet of what, 8-9 billion people are on our way to that, and that's not going to happen overnight. And the mechanisms of control, religion in particular, and governments with their unique ways of controlling their constituents, that has a huge presents a huge obstacle for the understanding and awareness of us being more cosmic citizens than ones that are relegated to a specific portion of geography on a planet. It's going to take time. It's not going to happen overnight, but it will be disruptive, but it's happened before.
What do you think the holdback is? Because with this current disclosure movement that we are seeing, we've seen it kind of broken up to the fact that we don't know where they're coming from. It could be Russia, it could be China. We got all these weird videos. Now the government is admitting, almost kind of starting off of phase 2. When does phase 3 begin, in your opinion, where we're actually going to get into the conversation about aliens?
Yeah, I think that really, and we talk a little bit about this in the film, is that they're setting the table on the reason why we've gone from flying saucers to UFOs to UAPs is because now we're focusing on the technology. We're not focusing on the operators. We're focusing on the technology. And the technology is present. It's on the planet. It's being developed. It's going to be deployed. And before it can be deployed, there has to be some awareness created around it. So I think it's very much orchestrated in the way it's being delivered. The messages are being delivered, and I think that it is setting the table for what would be labeled as soft disclosure that will eventually lead to a more revelatory exposure to a presence beyond what we know today. And what is that? That's the thing that I don't know. I have no idea. Is it dimensional? Is it physical? Is it spiritual? Is it energy? I don't know. And that's one thing that I don't think the answers have been revealed in that form. And I think that at the end of the day, I think it will be more energetic than anything. And that's something that everybody can connect to. I think a lot of people have to be awakened to it, but I think that is a much more realistic connection opportunity than any of the other possibilities. But coming face to face, I think that's what everybody's waiting for, is the presence of a being that doesn't look like us. That's what disclosure is seen. But I think we're we're not going to have that quickly. We're going to be introduced to everything else, and then once that's accepted, then we will be presented with the realities of other entities occupying the cosmos.
Do you think aliens will come out first before we know about the black projects of what's actually ours?
I think there's an awareness of that already. I think that there is the information is out there for people who are looking for it, whereas before it was much more secretive. And why are there people allowed to go out and have the conversations, write the books, reveal the things that are revealed in these discussions and books and films and documentaries? Why all of a sudden was there a preponderance of UFO films in the 70s and 80s? Do some research, you'll find out that it was intentional. It was intended to be, let's show the bad side, because then that's just kind of like preparing people for what it might be, but it might be much softer than that. So there's so much information out there. It's just a matter of looking for it. I think we're closer to accepting the reality than we are looking for it. I think people are ready for it. And I think when it starts to happen, I think one of the biggest fears is the destruction of belief structures. What happens when that is revealed? How does that impact, religious beliefs, and how does that impact what leadership has been telling their followers, and especially in dictator type countries? It has a huge impact, because it basically says we're not alone, and that there's something else out there. And I've been to Sacsayhuaman, and I've been to different places throughout Peru and Ecuador that just scratch your head. There's just no way. There's no way that these were made by the people of their time without some sort of divine or otherworldly guidance.
I think the military-industrial complex has a big control on this UFO phenomena. They don't want to give up their secrets on, if they have an Aurora-type aircraft that can fly 8,000 miles an hour, or any type of drone, hypersonic drone out there that can do 90-degree turns on a split second, because we already know through physics that it would tear up a human body to do that at high speed. Do you think that the military is the one calling the shots on this? We got 2 minutes.
Yeah, it's explored a little bit in the film that it is placed in gray projects, which basically allows that to be a government controlled, but placed in the private sector, and that protects it. So really the big question is, who is in control? Is it the private sector, or is it the government? And I think that's something that will be very, very difficult for us to unravel and truly understand all of the layers of this. It is incredible. The government is not the government. You have to be careful in how you say that. It's done a very good job of creating and protecting these secrets, because they're embedded not in the military, but in the public sector.
True. We learned that with Robert Bigelow.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
When he was given that money from the ATIP program to start studying this, we knew that he was hiding it. We knew that he was buying into MUFON. We know that he was buying up UFO websites to try and get as much information archived as possible. We know there's a trend on this.
Mm-hmm. Now, and I think that there's the component of this that is, there's going to be that there's a line in the film that the skeptics have to be right all the time. The believers have to be right just once. And that one time is going to be a catalyst for significant change. And that moment hasn't happened yet. And I think that some of the things that are discussed in this film will get people to realize that the government is moving in a direction. The government, again, I use that term, I think, loosely, because it's not necessarily a government. It may be the for lack of a better word, the cabals that control the movement of information and awareness and the distribution of wealth and all of that. I'm not a conspiracy theorist when it comes to stuff like that, but something's going on.
I'll get you to hold on right there. Jon Sumple is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. We continue on with Extraordinary, The Revelation, coming up next on Spaced Out Radio. Flying on by here.
Yeah, it's going quick. Yeah, I'm just loving the comments that are coming through, the ones that I'm able to catch a glimpse of. It's one of the things that I find interesting about this is the level of awareness and engagement that people already have, and that just is, it adds to the desire to present more information that only helps people better understand the possibilities. And that's just one thing that we've always done, is ask the question, what if this is all true? That's been a kind of a foundation of everything we do, is just to ask that question and start to look at things from a different point of view.
Well, one of the questions that I was asking right off the bat, and it went viral for a pretty short time, was the question that nobody is asking, and that is, why now? What is the significance of the U.S. government bringing all of this information out now? And if you narrow it down, to me, and it's my opinion only, there's two reasons. Number one, Dr. Stephen Greer is right that there is an alien false flag coming for some unknown reason. Or number two, a date had been given and they had to start the process.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only two things to me that make sense.
Well, one of the things that we discuss in this film is, the why now topic, and why all of a sudden this shift in how things are being addressed, from basically discrediting stories in the past to adding to the credence of the existence of something unexplained. And it dates back to some of the things that were happening in 2014. And Nick Pope talks about this, saying in 2014, something happened, something changed. The narrative has changed significantly as a result of some event that has happened. Why? Why is it happening now? And he said, all evidence points to a soft disclosure that we're leading, where we talked earlier that Melinda was kind of like the heart and soul of the last film. I wouldn't say that Nick is the heart and soul of this film, but Nick adds the intellectual component to this that really drives home what people need to be thinking about as they look at this. And it's the words that are used and how it's being presented. He has a significant discussion in the film about words matter and what he looked for, what he looks for now in the words that are being used. He said, because I sat in that seat when I was the Minister of Defense in the UFO side for the British intelligence. He said, I used those words. I manipulated those words. I did everything that is discussed today, but they're using different words. And he said, this is critically important in how things are being discussed today.
Interesting. Two seconds here.
I've got to catch up. I'm scrolling through the comments here.
By the way, casual conversation with the lovely and talented Gloria and whoever the A is. I subscribe to your channel. Since you're here all the time, I subscribe to your channel. That's only fair. Justin S., how are you? Mike Palumbo. What's going on? You caught up yet there, John?
Yeah, I'm I'm trying to figure out what these dentures are all about. I missed the initial one, so it's always, well, I always find it interesting in these some of the chat rooms in the different shows that I've been at. It's a social event for a lot of people, and there's a couple of shows that I've been on in the past where I'm like, are they even paying attention to the show? Because
I don't
they're
think
fully
so.
engaged in separate conversations.
Hold on, my
it's
friend.
good though.
Get you to hold on right there because we're going to get going here. Second half of Spaced Out Radio is kicked off. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Dave Scott. Really do appreciate earning your listening ears. Want to remind you that if you've missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram, Spaced Up Radio Show. Spaced Up, Spaced Out. Can't even remember my own show's name. Jon Sumple's name I remember. He's our guest. He's from J3 Films at j3films.com if you want to check it out. A new documentary hopefully coming out this fall to extend the Extraordinary series. Extraordinary, the Revelation. That's what we're talking about tonight. Everything UFO. John, welcome back.
Thank you for having me. It's been awesome. It's been a really good time. And you mind if I kind of kick this one off? Because I saw one of the comments in here. It's from Julie. She mentioned, isn't there something in the scriptures about end times occurring during one human lifetime, during our human lifetime? And we do talk about I mentioned earlier about the three different paradigms that we talk about. One of them is the biblical narrative. And in talking with Timothy Alberino and L.A. Marzulli, they are, Timothy in particular said, the Bible is 100% right 100% of the time. He said it is playing out exactly the way it's written, and there is a belief structure that the Great Deception is upon us, and the Great Deception is the UFO phenomenon. So that to me is something that it provides an interesting way to look at this is, well, what does that mean? And from the religious point of view, some people might argue that, well, religion is created as a control mechanism, therefore there's no way that this is accurate. But if you were to talk to either one of them, and I'm sure you probably have had conversations with each of them, they're very compassionate, or they are very convicted and passionate about their beliefs in the biblical narrative. So that begs the question, is this prophecy that's portrayed throughout the Bible true? And primarily in the Old Testament versus the New Testament. And we can have a whole nother conversation about the New Testament, and that's a possible subject for a future J3 Films documentary, is about the New Testament in the connection to the storytelling. But anyway, my point in bringing all that up is that the conviction of the individuals to a belief structure is fascinating to me, because you have somebody like Dr. Jacobs who says that's hogwash. they're here for one reason and one reason only, and that's to take over the planet. And then you have somebody like Mary Rodwell and people who are more convinced in the ascension and the connection to the cosmos as being the correct pathway. I find it very, very interesting that we could have people who are so diametrically opposed in their foundational belief structures, but yet they all believe in the same phenomena. So that begs the question, which one is right? And that to me is one of the things that will likely play out as this unfolds, and we'll have a much better understanding. My personal belief is that we are dimensional beings. We are of the same cosmic dust. We come from the same energetic source, and we're just playing through the cycle of returning to it. So that's not something that we explore in the films. That's just more my personal belief based on my kind of my DNA for starters, and in adding to it the things that I've learned along the journey of making these films.
How do you think the mainstream media has covered this topic?
Very carefully. I think they have been. I still find it interesting that whenever you do see something in the media about this, it usually is couched in kind of a nonsensical way. And my question would be, well, why cover it? Why put it on the air? Why have when local media talks about somebody who had an experience and they talk about it, they very rarely give it the weight that it potentially demands, and it's presented in such a way that it could be laughed at, and I don't quite understand that. But then there are other times when there are messages that are, I would say, more soft disclosure, the whole UAP. Why are we talking about UAPs so much today? Well, that's all because of, the revelations through ATIP and some of the things that have happened since the New York Times story broke in 2017. It's now part of our nomenclature and how we discuss things. It wasn't 5 years ago. We rarely talked about that. Maybe people who were, insiders, or people who were far down the rabbit hole, were using some of the terms and phrases that are now becoming more prevalent. And that begs the question, was it intentional? And based on the things that we do discuss in the third film, the answer and the conclusion that we come to is it's definitely intentional. So the messages that are proliferating through the media is very, very orchestrated.
I think it's orchestrated in a way because, as someone who has worked in the mainstream media, John, I do know for a fact that the media has never wanted this topic. And when you don't want to cover something on a mainstream level, you dog it. You get in and out as quickly as possible because you don't want to look like the fool. I used to do that when my boss used to force me, and I mean kicking and screaming, force me to cover soccer. Can't stand the devil's Antichrist game. All right. However, I had to do it because that was my job, even though it was punishment. This is where I knew my boss hated me. And the point that I'm getting at is, with mainstream reporters, they don't want to cover something. They dog the story, get in and out as quickly as possible. And for decades of making fun of people who are experiencers, and like you said, and I fully agree with that, I think the mainstream media was caught so far with their pants down on this story being a reality that they are playing catch up, and I think they've done a good job, because we're not hearing the X-Files theme or the Twilight Zone theme anymore at the beginning of every story. No, we're taking the story seriously. It's gone from the back pages of the newspaper to the front page of the Times. Mm-hmm. And I think that's wonderful. However, do you think, or do you agree, like I do, that the mainstream media has not asked the proper questions in order to put the pressure on those in the know on what's really going on?
Well, I think the evolution of media has a lot to do with it. So we go back to the 60s and Walter Cronkite being the deliverer of the news. And anyone who's old enough to remember that, there was a seriousness to the delivery of the news. And what changed all of that was 60 Minutes. 60 Minutes is the reason why we're where we are today, because that basically was paid for news. And 60 Minutes became something that transformed the industry, because we've slowly but surely shifted over the last 25 years in particular to more yellow journalism, because it sells and it's about clicks today. And we're not reporting the news, we're creating the news. We are we're far away from that. But in this culture that we have cultivated over the past few years in the media, the second this story breaks, everybody will talk about it. They will be stumbling over each other to make this part of their regular delivery of the news. So I think it's a double-edged sword, because the news is bad. It's the bad news. That's what it should be. You know, when you turn on the TV or you click on your favorite app on your phone or tune into something, it should say the bad news, not the 11 o'clock news, not the 6 o'clock news, the bad news, because that's really what the focus is, because it's what people tune into. They tune into the horror, and that's unfortunate. And I think, you know, in some ways, I kind of hope that when this story does break, that there is a focus on technology, because the technology side of it is amazing. You know, with Branson and Bezos going into space, that's amazing. And we're talking about technology in a way that we haven't before. You know, the Red Bull jump from space was amazing. You know, we're focusing on things, I think, more and more now that take us out into a different realm of possibility. And that is leading us, I think, to that kind of evolutionary step in belief paradigms.
Funny story that you mentioned Felix Baumgartner and the Red Bull jump from space. I was standing in the middle of a river fishing for salmon when we got hit by torrential rains, and it was cold rain. And we were fishing right near an underpass of a bridge. So the river ran underneath the bridge, and we could walk under the bridge to stay dry. We had a fire going. I had my phone over top of the fire. No, I didn't drop it in. And all of us watched that entire jump while we couldn't fish, because the weather was just way too wet and soaking, and we were freezing cold. But we had a nice fire. So thank you for that great reminder of that. I appreciate that.
Well, and I think one of the things about that, though, is that people they don't tune in for the success. They tune in for the potential failure. They watch NASCAR for the crashes. They watched Evel Knievel jump, hoping that he would miss the ramp and ragdoll his way across, the pavement in Caesar's parking lot. Our fascination with the potential for something going wrong is what I think gets a lot of people to tune in. Obviously, there are people who want to see the successes, and I'm not saying that everybody is that way, but a big portion of people, their curiosity is, well, what if this goes horribly wrong? What's that going to look like? And, you know, how many people, when they're on their way home from work and traffic, and they rubberneck and see we're interested in that. We're curious about that. So where I think the media could feed the right information through this is we are curious about where we come from and where we're going and why we're here. And it just hasn't been fed to us in the right way. So, you know, maybe there is a person out there, a deliverer of the news that we have not yet encountered, and most likely will come from somebody in the digital space than it would be on anything that is network related, that will help start facilitating a different type of awareness and approach to this. And you don't know. You just don't know.
All right. Minister Elaine is asking, John, has making these movies given you an insight on the hybrid program?
I think my level of knowledge of this didn't exist 10 years ago. And now, having been exposed to it, my personal belief structure has been formulated by the people that I've talked to, not so much the evidence and the science and things of that nature, but the deep personal, emotional just the expressive side of it has made me realize and has made me much more appreciate people who have been through those situations. And I have much more emotional capacity in my heart for listening, understanding, and just being there for people who have had those experiences. So from that point of view, my compassion quotient is through the roof as a result of what I've been exposed to. My understanding of it is still, it's confounding to me. And because I have a belief paradigm that has been fostered upon me that says that this shouldn't be happening. But what resonates with me more than anything is the interdimensional component of this. And it's interesting, when we were making the second film, The Seeding, when we had lined up to shoot Geraldine, and we had talked with her on the phone a few times, and she was at that time a relatively unknown entity in the UFO world and the experiencer world. The day that we showed up for the interview, I knocked on the door, she opened the door, and immediately I felt a connection to her in a way that I had never experienced before. And it was a familiarity. Like, it hit me like a ton of bricks. I'm like, in my head, I'm thinking, I know you. I know you. I know who you are. And then as we were going through a little bit of a tour at her house, and she was showing us some of the things that had happened to her, I was seeing things in her house that I had seen before. And one of the things, she had a drawing on her wall, and I'm like, wow, I've seen this before. And this, where is this bench? Because I just created that about 2 weeks ago. So through conversations with her, it became, clear to me, based on some of the things that I learned and I was connecting with as a result of the conversations that I was having with her and with other people, was the whole idea of the kind of the paradigms in which we are structured to believe, and that it's important for us to break out of those in order for us to see the potential of who we are and where we're from and why we're here, and what our journey is, whether it is an energy journey or it's as Mary Rodwell says, a meat suit journey on this planet. So when we break out of the meat suit journey and we have a better appreciation for what the larger cosmic story is, then we start to see the world from a different perspective. And my perspective has shifted more toward interdimensional and connection to source, more so than it does to the whole idea of other beings out there. And I just feel like we're all part of the same family.
We have about 7 minutes here before we got to go to break at the top of the hour. Jon Sumple is our guest tonight from j3films.com, talking about Extraordinary, The Revelation, coming soon this fall, which is right around the corner. Hard to believe it's right around the corner already, but here it comes. Now, Jon, when you take the overall aspect of what we're seeing with this disclosure movement, the number of different narratives that are out there, is any of this good for the public? Because we see a UFO Twitter crowd that is very pro, we don't care how the message gets out, let's just get it out. There is the crowd that says, hey, I want to be able to see disclosure happen, but let's set the record straight here. There's a lot of stuff going on. There's a lot of people who believe, like myself, that any type of disclosure has to include at least Roswell moving forward, not the USS Nimitz moving forward. And I think the United States government is very fearful of how many secrets it's trying to keep on this subject from everybody on the planet. Or you have the experiencers who have their own form of disclosure already.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that the government has a lot of splaining to do when we look back historically, because they have been telling us for decades that was all hogwash. It's fabricated stories and kind of pushed them to the side. But a bigger part of disclosure, in my opinion, is that when it does evolve into something that is more than just unexplained phenomena, how are they going to explain away hiding this for so long? That's a big part of it. So I think one of the reasons why we're seeing this shift towards technology is for that very reason, that we don't want to talk about the operators. We want to talk about the tech. We want to talk about what advances are being made and what is happening on the screen of these radars that we're seeing as being something that we can't comprehend because of physics as we know them today. That's not to say that modern physics is 100% correct. There are different physics, kind of the new physics. I think it's Alcubierre is one of the fathers of that, and this is going back 100 years. That it's about bending space and time. It's not about linear space and time, which is what we're led to believe. So there's been evolution of thought. There's been evolution of science. There's been major breakthroughs over the past 300-500 years. Who's to say that's not going to happen again in the next 50, 25, 10 years, 5 years? There's a good chance that there will be evolution of all of these different paradigms that we understand today as being finite. And the history of the world proves to us that is not true. Everything is expanding. And that was one of the themes of the last film, is that the more the circle expands, so from Ralph Waldo Emerson's essay on circles, is every time you expand the circle of greater awareness, there's that many more questions, exponentially more questions that arise that need to be addressed and answered. And I think we're just seeing that happen. We're seeing that expansion just creates more questions. So for the people who want the answers, they're coming. They're happening before our very eyes. I think that, and it might not be about men in space and aliens coming to visit Earth. It may be something much, much bigger than that, which is a definition of who we are, why we're here, and what happens to us when we die.
Unbelievable. As we got about 3 minutes to go here, and we're kind of hanging on out, talking about everything extraterrestrial, what do you believe happens? What do you believe in the reaction from the politicians in Washington State, whether it's Marco Rubio, Mark Warner, or others who are starting to speak out about this?
I think it's going to take one brave person to make a statement that can't be walked back, and I don't know if that's going to happen in any time soon. I don't know if it's going to happen with the cast of characters that are present on the world stage right now. Potentially, it could. It might come from somebody in some far corner of the world that we've never addressed and talked about before, but they just emerge, and it's something profound. I don't know the answers to that. I really have not spent a lot of time thinking about how it unfolds as much as I am curious about when it unfolds. And I feel like, based on the research that we've done, the people that we've talked to, is that it's unfolding before our very eyes. It might not be as fast for some people as they would want it to be, but I believe that it's happening. If you just look at how far we've come since Roswell, and how fast and furious the acceleration has been over the last 5 years of the proliferation of information and awareness, it's global now in a way that it never had been before. And I think that's a step in the right direction.
Definitely a step in the right direction going forward. I mean, the conversation is happening, but is it a good conversation? Is it a conversation that we need to be having as of yet?
Well, I think during these pandemic times, it's a conversation that there's probably more time to ponder it. It's probably, as you mentioned earlier, it's the nerves are frayed, and it might not be the best of times for that to happen. But I look at like the pandemic that we're going through now, the Spanish flu back in 1918 through 1920. It was a 2-year period that was as horrific as it is now for us. They got through it, and they got through it with less technology and less communication, and the world went on. And I feel that we will do that with this. I feel that we will do that with the announcement and eventual soft and hard disclosure, whenever that might be. The world will go on. We'll adjust. It'll just be a new belief paradigm.
For sure. Now, the big question is, what is the big answer to it all? Does the president know? Is he spilling the beans with other countries?
I don't think so. I don't think it's at that level. I think it's far outside of the leadership realm. There's, people talk about shadow government. They'll talk about, on a need to know basis and who is on a need to know. And one of the things we, and learned in talking to the 3 military personnel was that they had clearance. They had high clearance in the areas that they were in control of, but there was so much more that they didn't know. And there was so much more that they weren't exposed to, and they were exposed to quite a bit.
Right.
So where does that lead us? It leads us to know that there's so much more to learn.
All right, Jon Sumple, we have him for another 30 minutes here on Spaced Out Radio. Then we're going to get to the Magic 8 Ball, the Newswire, and the Thought of the Dave. Spaced Out Radio continues right after this. All right, everybody on YouTube, we are having a little bit of a troll attack here. It happens every now and again, and we just kind of go with it. We've got a few mods working on it, cleaning it on up. Thank you, mods. And John, I'll get you to hold on here, and we'll be right back with you, okay?
Okay. How much time?
Yeah, we got about 5.5 minutes.
Okay. I'm going to take a little break.
Me too. All right. I am back. John, when we get to the break at the bottom of the hour, I'm going to get you to hold on for just a couple of seconds, so that way I can say a proper good night to you.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, if you don't mind, that would be great. We have about 1 minute 30 seconds. Thank you to our wrenches for cleaning up the mess in the chat room. Really do appreciate that. Yes, the moon on the East Coast, bright orange. You can blame British Columbia for that. We'll take credit for that, for your orange moon. How about that? Big thank you to YJ, to Minister Elaine ×2, Cat Chaser, Apollo, Fapster, and Chad for the amazing super chats tonight. Really do appreciate it. That's a great way to support the show. Thank you to our new subscribers, all the veterans tuned in, all the regulars who are here every single night. Ibarata in Singapore, how you doing, buddy? Good to see you. Thanks for coming on in. And here we go at the third hour, guys.
Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Here we go with the third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Want to say hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on Revolution Radio, TalkStream Live, and KPNL. All of our archives are free by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Gomfiasis. Gomfiasis is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. For the final time tonight from J3 Films, we have Jon Sumple. J3films.com is the website. Extraordinary, The Revelation is what we are talking about, a documentary that will be coming out maybe this fall or early next year, pending on how the editing schedule and everything goes. John, we're having a great time with you tonight. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me. I always enjoy having conversations with you, Dave, because you're a great interviewer. You ask a lot of good questions.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And, it's always a pleasure to be a part of you guys, to be able to, to be one of the shows that you guys think about when it's time to get on the air and talk about these extraordinary subjects. What are you guys going to do after this all pans out?
Well, one thing I wanted to mention in regards to being on the show, this is the first show that we're doing to talk about the new film. So the pleasure is all of your audiences for being a part of this tonight. So we appreciate them engaging and sharing their thoughts in the chats, and that level of engagement is important. And spread the word, get the word out. So I'm sorry, what was your question again?
Just in regards to where do you guys go from here after this? The Extraordinary, The Revelations is out and it's complete. What's next on the project list?
Well, we have We have a couple of different things. I think I mentioned a little bit earlier about the something to do with it's the gospel according to James and what that role was and why it was not included in the New Testament. There are several other UFO and paranormal related stories that some are mind-blowing in the sense of the evidence and the stories and the witnesses that were present for these, and those are all stories that we're engaged with and pursuing. There's been some discussion about doing something that's more episodic and looking at opportunity to do more longer form documentary formats, and all of those are on the table right now. I think we'll continue with the Extraordinary brand because it is a way of uniquely identifying us in the space. But as it pertains to this kind of like, I would say, trilogy of from Lights in the Sky to the awareness in the government and is disclosure happening, I think that story in and of itself is played out in these three films. There's so much more that we could explore, but I think there's unique stories, and we may get into more unique storytelling and bring people a little bit further into some of the cases and some of the experiences that individuals have had, because the more we share stories like that, the more awareness there is and the more conversations that occur. And if we continue to bring these stories to the masses, then the conversation is taken at a much higher level and the exposure is greater, which is ultimately our goal, is to expand awareness and the discussion around things that don't happen every day, the discussions that don't happen every day.
Is seeing UFOs or lights in the sky, as you just put it, is that still valuable information towards this subject, considering where we are now?
Well, I remember as a kid when the first time that I was witness to a UFO, and my dad was out grilling in the backyard on a summer's night, and it was a light in the sky off in the horizon, and it moved rapidly 3 times across the horizon, in something that is impossible to do when you're witnessing it. So I saw the second and the third movements. I didn't see the first one, and it was reported by thousands of people in the community that saw the same thing. But there was at the time always excuses for it. So at that time, when you would bring up something like that, it was looked at as a negative, and people are like, yeah, right, okay, sure, whatever. Now it is something that people look forward to seeing new evidence. So we're predisposed to wanting to see more. So I think that part of that, though, is that we have seen so much of it that we need something more. It's that kind of like, okay, yeah, been there, done that, seen that, show me something different, show me something better, show me something more profound. And I think that's both good and bad, because it lessens the integrity of the experience of witnessing something, in the sky that you've never seen before. If somebody comes into a room and says, look at the image that I got, and then people are like, yeah, I've seen that before, no big deal. That lessens that person's individual experience. So from that point of view, I think it's not good. But the fact that so many people are having experiences and are talking about them and are sharing them is a good thing. It's just that the emphasis now is so much more on the more spectacular and looking for the spectacular. And when they happen, they move the needle even further.
In your opinion, what do we need for profound information in order to really capture the eyeballs that this isn't just a military operation where this is happening, that this is happening every day to people around the world?
I think it's less, again, personal opinion. I think it's less about seeing credible information and more about hearing from credible voices. So is it someone in government? Is it somebody who is an influencer? Is it somebody that maybe it's a celebrity that people respect? It's going to take somebody that is not expected to share something like this, that is really going to heighten the awareness to a level that is not happening today. Because I just think the proliferation of evidence, the discussion is so much more heightened. in the last 5 years that we constantly need something new and stimulating to encourage the conversation to go even further.
Kevin is asking, John, what do you think about all of the lights that people see over the Temple Mount in Jerusalem?
I think, I've seen some of those going back a few years. There's when they first came out, there were people talking about those that it was a hoax, and I think there was a few that were a hoax. But there had been continuous imagery and discussions about this. This is one of those things that when it first happened, it was profound, and now it's just kind of like, oh yeah, that's happened before. We've seen that type of thing. I just think that with the some of the sightings that we have seen, if anybody that lives on the West Coast in Southern California have seen some lights out over the ocean several times over the last year or so. And this is something that is being documented and reported and captured on video by thousands, if not tens of thousands of people. It's being discussed, it's being shared, and I think that, I don't know if the question is more about are there religious connotations? I really don't know. I think that there might be energy related. As we traveled through, my wife and I traveled through the Mayan and Aztec and Incan cultures, there is a strong belief that some of these pyramids were used for transportation. There are stories and that have been passed down, oral history stories for generations about some of the people that showed up in Chichen Itza that shouldn't have been there. So there are some pretty profound stories that when you sit there and you talk to the people that are of that culture and they share the oral history and how it has been perceived and reacted to over the centuries, it is very common to them, but uncommon to outsiders. So I think there's a fascinating story that I would love to explore. It would require an awful lot of money to do it, but to travel to indigenous cultures throughout the world and learn about the oral history surrounding the sky people. Because in my short journeys through Central and South America, I've had that conversation with a lot of people. And every single time I ask the question about the sky people, I've done it with tour guides, I've done it with locals, they all have a story to tell. Every single one of them. And these are things that are specific to the origin stories or stories that have been passed on for generations, oral stories, oral history stories. So I'm fascinated by the existence of these stories and how far they go back and how proliferating they are around the world. And are they similar? And if we can get similar stories that have been told for centuries or millennia, and they're corroborative, I see, like Dr. Jacob says, that's evidence. That's evidence to me.
Very interesting indeed. All right, let's go to another question. This one comes from our good friends in Italy, Detailing Academy. John, what do you think aliens want? What do you think is their agenda?
Well, I'll go back to that kind of cosmic answers that I think that we're all of the same space dust. I think that it's control mechanisms and stories that have us thinking of them as what is their agenda. I don't know if it's an agenda as much as it is a curiosity, maybe, or it's something that they're just waiting for us to get to a point where we're ready to become part of the cosmic family. And that very well may be true. We may not be a very mature species compared to other races that are in existence in the universe. So I don't like to use the word agenda because it has some negative connotations to it. I feel that it's a word that triggers fear. I think I would rather look at it as, what is their purpose? And I think their purpose is really to help bring us along.
You mentioned you've seen a UFO, so I'll kind of rephrase Mark's question here. Are you an experiencer yourself? Do you consider yourself an experiencer?
I do not consider myself an experiencer. That doesn't mean that I have no awareness or connection to it. I haven't had the I haven't had the moments that some people, when we screened the last film, we had people have very emotional and physical responses to seeing some of the things that were said in the film, to the point where they had to leave the theater. Then talking to them later on, they were like, something that triggered something in me. Created an awareness that I now need to figure out what's going on. So I haven't had anything profound like that happen with me. But as far as seeing craft, I've seen at least 3 different times when I was young, where I was, there was no explanation as to what I saw at the time. Now, and since then, over the past, I would say, 10 years, night watches and sky watches and things like that, I've had the infrared glasses on and have seen things moving in ways that they shouldn't. That makes me believe that they're not moving in straight lines. Something's different for sure.
Jon Sumple is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio, talking UFOs and everything in between. Melinda is asking, is there a chance your movie will be submitted for the International UFO Congress in September?
There is a very, very small chance. That's not to say that there isn't a chance, but the challenge is where we are in the production cycle right now, and there's still so much more that needs to be done that I don't think we would have a screener copy ready in time for submission for that, given how close it is. So if by some Hail Mary miracle of a chance we do get things dialed into a point where we can get it to Karen and Alejandro for inclusion, we would definitely consider it. But I feel that the window is very, very small and closing rapidly. But yeah, we would love to have it presented there again.
All right. Apollo is asking, why would the government go through such extremes to keep this topic quiet? What if it's really bad news? What if it involves souls or consciousness? What if by believing in it makes you stronger? Or
I think stronger? I think that's the fear. The fear in the government is that it empowers the people, that it empowers awareness, it empowers consciousness, it empowers individuality. It empowers us to search for answers and the truth, and not be, on the hamster wheel. So when we break out of the traditional mindsets, when we break out of the loops that we're caught in, that's when profound expansion of knowledge and awareness and evolution and thought and development and technology and ideas and creativity happens. And it requires those breakthroughs. And I think to a certain extent, from a government or a religious perspective, is that if we're allowed that, not that they have the right to say what we are allowed to do and not to do, if we're allowed to do that, it would be something that is more difficult to control. So when I think about control, I think about it in the sense of it's in this, whether it's governments or cabals or a select group of individuals that are pulling all the strings. It's a lot easier when everybody's moving in the same direction. It's much more complex when people are moving in different directions, and from those who are orchestrating, the desired end result that benefits them. So I believe that we're gonna reach one of those peaks, and we're going to go through one of those expansions of thought and knowledge and awareness and connection. And it may be interdimensional. It may be, one day you wake up and you feel something that you've never felt before, and you follow that path, and it takes you something that you can explain, but it makes sense. And I think that that's part of what we're going to be going through, is that we don't need other people telling us that this is happening. We need to believe it from within. I feel that disclosure is us, and how we manage it and how we deal with it and how we embrace it helps guide us to where we need to go.
Do you think the government, though, is playing the public for fools on this topic by saying they don't know what it is, they don't know where it's coming from? Because to me, it looks very foolish.
I think that that's all part of the old school mentality of that we know what's best for you, and trust us. And there we've had discussions with people before too who have said, it certain things are best left unsaid, because depending on what that information is, how would people manage that information? So maybe when we look back at this historically, 5, 10, 50 years down the road, we will say, global governments and global leadership did a really good job of slowly releasing this information because it was in the best interest of humanity to do it that way. We're not there yet to be able to look back at that and say that that's what's happening, but maybe it is. Maybe we are being spoon-fed at the pace we need to be spoon-fed in order to truly embrace this. But I do feel like when you look back at where we were in 1947 and where we are today, profound leaps from where we were to where we are today. But with the knowledge comes the desire for more, and that's where we are at this point. Is that okay? We've been spoon-fed. Now let's turn on the fire hose. We're ready for more.
Well, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. And this is where we always say on this show to our audience, make sure you be careful of the narrative that's out there, because this is a narrative. If there wasn't a narrative, we wouldn't have seen the government stop at 2004. They would have kept going. Anyways, right. Minister Elaine is asking, when do you expect your trailer for Extraordinary the Revelation to come out?
Well, just for clarity, it's Extraordinary the Revelation, so plural.
Sorry.
No worries. That we knew that was going to be something that would, but we didn't want. I think when you say the Revelation, it becomes religious, but by having an S on there, it clarifies a little bit more. And there are a lot of revelations that are presented in the film, which is basically revealing things that you may not have thought about before. It's not like definitive answers, but it's slowly peeling back more layers of the onion to help people better understand. But the trailer is should be out, I would assume, within the next week or so. So we will likely have a announcement on that in a relatively short amount of time. It's done. It's not like we're waiting for it to be done. It is done. It's more a matter, I think, at this point of having an idea of when the film is going to be out and kind of timing it with some sequencing and cadence with how we would like to launch it and promote it. So yeah, it's close.
That's got to be exciting.
Oh, it is. And well, to me, it's one of the things too that people have talked about. I've talked about this numerous times with people, that the creative process for me is what I enjoy the most. It's the doing the research. It's doing the logistical side of it, planning it. It's doing the interviews, and then it's creating the final product. And at the end of that process, I feel good about what's been done. I feel good that everybody that's worked on this has given their best, and that we've delivered the best possible outcome based on the resources that we had available and the access that we had to the people, and our work is done. So when that final product is shipped off to our distributor for launch, I'll be thinking about what are we going to do next, and it's more about that the process and being engaged in the process that's so rewarding and fulfilling to me.
Fantastic. Jon, we got about 90 seconds left with you. Tell everybody where they can find the Extraordinary series.
Well, the easiest thing to do is to go to our website, j3films.com. There are links, or in the menu, there are 3 different pages on the site that will point you to the 3 different films, and there's links within those that allows you to see where the films are available for viewing. They're on a lot of streaming platforms right now. The first 2 films, YouTube Movies has the first film, which has been great because it has the largest exposure and more people see that film as a result of it being on there. They stopped for, unfortunately, taking content in the UFO and paranormal space. So we're fortunate that one's there. But yeah, follow us on our Facebook page. Right now we have a J3 Films. We have an Extraordinary The Seating. We have an Extraordinary Stan Romanek story page. We'll probably change the seating page to this title instead of creating another new one. But yes, those are the places where you can find information about what we're doing and how we're doing it and when we're doing it.
Very cool. Jon, thank you for coming on. Really appreciate it. When this movie does get released, we definitely got to bring you back.
Okay. Always a pleasure, Dave. And all you got to do is call. I'll be more than happy to come back on.
And thank you, Lori, for tuning in tonight. We love you, Lori. You take care. Lori Wagner.
Thanks, Lori.
Absolutely. Coming up next, I'm going to warm up the Magic 8 Ball, take some audience questions. The 8 Ball is always right. Then the news, then the thought of the Dave. Stay tuned. Spaced Out Radio continues right after this. All right, we're clear. Good job, Jon.
Yeah, great show. Really
Sorry
good.
for waking you up at 2 a.m. your time.
No, that's okay.
Felt bad about
Not
that.
a problem. No. I was excited to participate. So looking forward to it. It's one of those things like Christmas morning, whenever, like we did, I think like 25 to 30 shows for the last film. By the end of that run, you're kind of like, yeah, okay, I'm good with this. But this is the first one for this one. So I was pretty excited to get on and start talking about it. So,
well,
yeah.
You guys always got a home here.
No, we really appreciate that. The opportunity and the friendship and the support is invaluable when you're doing this. As you mentioned earlier, this is, when you're doing this, you're not doing it for windfalls of money. You're doing it to raise awareness. So we'll keep doing it as long as people are interested.
Rock and roll, my friend. You take care, okay?
Thanks a lot. Have
Good
a great day.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Jon Sumple, everyone. Jon Sumple. Oh. Yeah, he's a good dude. Thank you to Lori Wagner for that. You may not know her name, but you definitely have seen her work. She just works behind the scenes. She's amazing. She's like invisible, but she's like amazing. Oh. Mm-hmm. Thanks, Mike Palumbo. All right, remember when we go do the Magic 8 Ball, make sure you ask all of your questions in capital letters, and please make sure that they are yes, no questions, and make sure they're proper for terrestrial radio. I'd appreciate that. Yeah, when the lights out, it looks dangerous. Here we are now. Entertain us. Trying to get the hair gel out. Yes, probably a good time to bring out the old Mighty Moose beard oil. That'll help me out. Gary the Dutchman is going to give all of you SOR people a deal. And you know what? You want to take advantage of that because Dutch people never give a deal. If you ever want to see a Dutch person cringe, tell them you want a deal. Never happens. So Gary the Dutchman, MightyMooseBeard.com, is giving us a little bit of a break here. If you use promo code SOR2019, you take the drops to the beard oil. All right. And then you rub it in your hands. And then you massage it in. That's it. But, see, they're still on my hands. Hands are greasy. What do you do, Dave? Well, what you do is rub it in your hair. Ladies, it's fantastic for your hair. And men with nice hair. There's no chemical components. It's all natural. Smells great. Keeps your hair nice and oily. Because your hair should be a little bit oily. Not oily. You don't want it too oily. But some oil is good. It really is. So, you want to do this. All right? So you smell good. You feel good. Your hair smells great. It feels great. And you go to MightyMooseBeard.com. Tell Gary the Dutchman. Okay, say, hey, you cheap Dutchman. I want the SOR 2019 promo code to give me a discount. And remember, you are paying in Canadian dollars. All right. You are paying in Canadian dollars. So if you're in the United States or the UK, you're getting one smoking good deal. Seriously. Seriously. It's the way it works. I cannot deny that. Cannot deny that. We got 22 seconds. Big thank you to Cat Chaser times 2, YJ, Elaine times 2, Apollo, Fabster, and Chad for the amazing super chats. Really do appreciate that. Thank you to all our listeners for coming in as well. Here we go. We've rounded third. We're heading for home tonight on Spaced Out Radio. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for playing along with us tonight. Usually we get to the news at this time, but you know what? It's time for the Magic 8 Ball. Yes, we're going to start taking questions from our audience in our YouTube chat room on the Magic 8 Ball, where we look to make some serious predictions, because the Magic 8 Ball is never wrong. It is psychic as anything. It is, the best that there could be. It's like Kreskin combined with Sylvia Brown, combined with, the twins healing people out of Saskatchewan, and everything in between. We just need some audience questions here, and we're going to get this thing started, because that's how it works. That's how it goes, and we're going to check it out. We're going to start it off. I'm going to ask a question right off the bat here as I shake up the Magic 8 Ball, because we want to give it that good energy. We want to give it that good vibe. You know what I'm saying? It's got to have a good vibe. Let's see here. Am I going to be having the Spaced Out Radio party in Vegas later this year? Oh, Magic 8 Ball. Because I want all my audience to attend. I do. See what the Magic 8 Ball says, because right now, we're going to see how it goes. Out of fuel, try later. Well, I know it's out of fuel because COVID's going on right now, Magic 8 Ball. But I'm saying in a couple months. Is it going to be a couple months? Will it be by the end of the year? Give me an answer. Otherwise, I'll toss you across the room, you jerk. You may rely on it. See the accuracy? Sometimes we got to give Magic 8 Ball a little bit of a threat in order to get it working. All right. By this year, we're going to have a party. Oh, yeah. Here we go. Nicola is asking, I have had one UFO experience. Do you think I will have another one? Magic 8 Ball, Nicola, says for you, all clear. Keep your eyes to the skies. It's going to happen. I don't have a timeline on it. The feeling I get is probably within the next year to two. Within the next year to 2 years. But it's going to happen. You just need to stop staring at your phone. Take your lawn chair out into the yard and focus up. Bring some binoculars out with you too. Down in Australia, we have Ozzy's sister. Magic 8 Ball, should I change my YouTube name to Biology Melinda? That sounds complicated. See if Magic 8 Ball likes it. It's not getting good energy off of this. It says batteries are low. Think you're going to want to come up with a better name than that. Sorry to break your heart, but sometimes the Magic 8 Ball can be callous that way. All right. Jules is asking, will it rain on the forest fires tomorrow? It is decidedly so. That'd be nice to see some rain. Because I'll be honest with you, my lungs are starting to really, really get upset with breathing in all the forest fire smoke. And it is like snowing ash at my house and at the studio here. It's not a good feeling. Not a good feeling at all. All right, where are we here? Let's see. Jennifer Hawkins is asking, is August 31st too late? I don't know what it's for, but we're going to find out. In hypersleep. Which means, don't worry about it. If it happens, it happens. Whatever it is. Sandra, who lives on Vancouver Island. Hi, Sandra. Hi, Sandra. Hi, Sandra. For some reason, she always likes me to pronounce her name 3 times. It's weird. She's weird that way. But most Vancouver Islanders are. I should know. I lived there for a couple of years when I started my radio career. Is Megalodon off the coast of British Columbia? You have my pity, which means yes, there is Megalodon off the coast of British Columbia. Another reason not to go into the ocean in British Columbia, Megalodon. That's all we needed. We got killer whales. We got all sorts of sharks. Great whites are starting to come up. Now Megalodon has come on in. Well, the ocean's out for this guy. I guess I'm never visiting Vancouver Island again because one of those could probably take down one of those antiquated BC ferries. That's for sure. Those rusty hulls they use. Ooh. Nope, not going there. Jordan is asking, will some or all of the aliens ever reveal themselves anytime soon? Don't count on it. Pretty self-explanatory, Jordan. The aliens want a proper introduction. They want to be able to go and say, hey, humans, we want a cake, we want a parade, maybe one of them Blue Angels flyovers. Yeah, can't blame them. Chrismo in Austria. We're all over the world here. If you don't know that by now, we have listeners from all over the world, and I love it. It's amazing. Chrismo is asking, will the booking guy return to the chat room soon? Well, our booking guys are already in there. All clear. Yes. Yes, they will return. Let's see. B. Hoff is asking, Magic 8 Ball, will Dave shave his beard tomorrow? Now, there was a typo here. He said, will Dave shave his bear tomorrow? But I don't own a bear, so I'm going to assume he means beard. It does need a little trim. Magic 8 Ball, am I going to do it tomorrow? All clear. Probably going to happen. All right. Let's get to another question here. They pile on up. All right. Jordan Ashley Pettit, or if she was from Les Provinces de Quebec, it'd be Petit. Oh, Grand Mystical Magic 8 Ball, will I ever meet Dave in real life? Oh, do I have an autograph for you? It's Dave Scott. That's how I sign it. Dave Scott. Come on, Magic 8 Ball. Don't count on it. Oh, that's cruel. Really? Is that your final answer? Because that's kind of a cruel answer. You have my pity. I think there's some sarcasm going on. Jordan, you come to Vegas for the Vegas party. All right, we'll let you through the red ropes. Okay? We'll let you through the red ropes. Definitely. Dave wants to meet you and every listener who listens to this show. Shar is asking, is the SOR chat room a big acting class? Well, let's find out, Shar. Reply hazy, try again. So basically what the Magic 8 Ball is saying to you, Shar, is, really? Really? With a head tilt, too. Really? And a scrunchy nose. Oh, gosh, I should go scrunchy nose. Because if you're seeing me on camera right now, I get this, if I go scrunchy nose, I get this big Ukrainian bulbous nose. Us Ukrainians are known for our big noses. All right, Jenny is asking, will Dave ever eat breakfast for dinner? The Magic 8 Ball agreeing with me, just so you don't think I'm BSing here, says don't count on it. Oh, it turned on me there. Ask again later. No, I will not. In Italy, as we said, we got people all around the world listening. Detailing Academy is asking, will my date tonight go well? Yeah, because he's living in Tomorrowland. Lives in the future over there on the big boot. I'd like to go to Italy. Answer is, all clear. You're going to have a good one. You're going to have a good one. Don't try any stupid pickup lines because you already got the date. Duke from World Bigfoot Radio. Will Dave ever come to Montana and go camping with Sasquatch and Duke? Oh, that sounds fun. The answer is, censors read no. What do you mean? Are you being foolish again? 8 Ball says, censors read no. Really? Sounds kind of jerkish. Duke, sometimes the 8 Ball is not 100%. I would like to do that trip. I really would. All right. Snakes is asking, will Dave get to see a Guns N' Roses concert this year? That doesn't rely on the 8 Ball. That relies on Justin Trudeau opening the bloody borders up. Get the borders open, JT. Don't worry about a new pair of socks. Okay, you've already ruined the sock culture. Get the borders open. The answer is, you have my pity. I knew that answer was coming, to be honest. I don't think I'll see him this year, but next year for sure. All right. Ron, I didn't see your question. Can you repost it, please? All right. Chris Mo is asking, will humanity go the Captain Kirk route, or are we going to be more like Spock? Find out for Magic 8 Ball. And the answer is, you may rely on it. Going Captain Kirk. So get ready. Melinda, will Extraordinary, the Revelations, win lots and lots of awards? Oh, I hope so. We need a positive answer. Signs point to yes, says the Magic 8 Ball. I think it will. That's going to be a good movie. Fabster, I can do that. I can give you some beard trimmings. I got a couple of beards here. Stetson John is asking, was that gigantic alligator beast seen next to the cruise ship real? It is decidedly so that it was real. That does not surprise me. All right. Do we have any more? Got time for maybe one or two more here before we got to say goodnight to the Magic 8 Ball. Chris Mo is asking, will Dave Scott go on a world tour like next year, only if we get picked up. We got 6 beautiful terrestrial radio stations we're on now. If we make that like 200-300 and get some good sponsors, that'd be great. Hint, hint. We're ready. It's broadcast. All systems go. We can do it. We just got to get picked up. Got to get picked up. And all right. I'm going to say goodnight to the Magic 8 Ball. We'll do it all again next week because we love that around here. Why not? Why not? Let's just have some fun with that. And, of course, we still got a lot of show to go. Here comes the news. The news is always changing. That's why we're bringing the SOR News Wire at the back end of every show where we get the real strange stuff sometimes. And here in British Columbia, a province-wide state of emergency has finally been declared as wildfires continue to grow, forcing hundreds from their homes and putting thousands more on evacuation alert. And I'm just going to say, anywhere in America where your moon is orange or your sun is bright orangish red, you can blame Canada for that. You really can. Maybe a little bit of California, some Oregon and Washington, but mainly Canada. We'll take credit for that. Public Safety Minister Mike Farnworth finally got out from behind his desk, saying the declaration will help with the mass evacuations quickly and allow the government to secure accommodation for those people if necessary. Nearly 300 fires were burning across the province today, including several that were encroaching on communities like mine that have issued evacuation orders or alerts. There are more than 40 evacuation orders affecting about 5,700 people, almost 2,900 properties in the province. There are also 69 evacuation alerts affecting just under 33,000 people and about 16,000 properties. We have reached a critical point, Farnworth said. More than 3,000 square kilometers of land has already been burned by 1,145 wildfires in British Columbia so far this year, which is 3 times the 10-year average for this time every year, according to BC Wildlife Service Director of Operations Cliff Chapman. The state of emergency will stay in effect for 14 days, but may be extended as needed. About time. About time. All right, here's a weird one. Chelsea Jovanovic invited a special guest to her maternity shoot in June 2021. Along with Jovanovic, her husband Jake, and her baby-to-be, a woman the couple had never met in person was also there. Her name is Cheryl Urban, and she had donated her uterus to Jovanovic 18 months earlier. For a long time, the two women's identities were unknown to each other, but 1 year after the transplant, they were allowed to connect. After emailing and talking on the phone, they felt an instant connection. Jovanovic is a registered nurse. Urban, who's 42, was a nursing major once. They called each other soul sisters. She is my angel on earth. Without her, I would not have my family, says Jovanovic, a 33-year-old registered nurse from Billings, Montana. I am so very grateful. Jovanovic learned early in life that she would face fertility struggles. At 15, she still hadn't had her period, and doctors discovered her uterus wasn't fully developed. After getting married in 2018, Jovanovic got an offer from her best friend to be a gestational surrogate. Yeah, I definitely always knew I wanted to be a mom, Jovanovic said. That's all I ever really wanted. Jovanovic and her husband created 3 embryos. In August 2019, they were at their lawyer's office signing surrogacy paperwork. The embryo transfer was planned for 3 days later when Jovanovic received a phone call saying there was fluid in her friend's uterus. The implantation had to be postponed. It was devastating news. But, oh well, there's a brighter side to this. Because of the Living Donor Uterus Transplant Program, now the young lady is a mom for the first time. That is incredible. That's good humanity right there. I'm just saying it. That is good humanity. And finally tonight, if you didn't see this, it was pretty cool. Jeff Bezos, a.k.a. the world's richest man, described his journey to space as the perfect mission and a tiny little step in his master plan to build a road to space where he thinks the world's major industries will be able to operate in the future to save planet Earth. Bezos and the crew of Blue Origin took off from their base in Van Horn, Texas at 9:12 a.m. Eastern and the 52nd anniversary of the moon landing. 12 minutes behind schedule, they ascended for 4 minutes before the New Shepard rocket booster separated from their capsule, leaving them floating in zero gravity for 4 minutes. Bezos and Mark floated about, pretended to swim, and tossed Skittles at each other's mouths while in the air. And they said afterwards they had written "Hi" and "Mom" on their palms and put their hands together for their mother, Jacqueline, while in space. They were joined by 18-year-old Oliver Damon, the world's first paying customer to buy his flight, and 82-year-old Wally Funk. By the way, how does an 18-year-old have like $28 million to do this? Seriously. The 10-minute flight, by the way, cost $5.5 billion or $555 million per minute. Yep. Think about that for a second. That's a tough pill to swallow, but space is worth it. Thought of the Day happens every night at this time, where we ask a question on our Facebook and Twitter pages, then read your responses on the air because we love the audience participation around here. Today's Thought of the Day is as follows. In your opinion, what is the most important aspect of ET contact? John, discovering among the ETs who we can trust and who we can't. Drew, the understanding of our relationship with them. Ken, they're all demonic, best to avoid them. Irina, proving it. Eduardo, find one ET to contact. Chris, if ET contact was credible, then search for truth and disclosure of UAV would be mute. Eric, ascension. Kevin, the contract buzz. Eugene, confirming their origins and their agenda. Byron, when I have a conscious contact and remember it or some of it, I always have an increase in my ability to perceive. Marty, expanding our collective consciousness. Danny, to not get butt probed. Catherine, what flavor of sauce to use? Oh, and what wine pairs well, of course. Bobby gets the final word tonight. Astroglide versus KY. Aliens, you decide. Thank you to everybody playing along in the Thought of the Day. We'll do it all again tomorrow on Facebook and Twitter. Thank you to Captain Shirk for the news, everyone playing along with the Magic 8 Ball, and Jon Sumple from J3 Films talking about Extraordinary, The Revelations. We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal rocking in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at home, at work, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight on YouTube, Twitch, LGAB, Revolution Radio, Spreaker, Facebook, the Space Travelers Club, and on Twitter at hashtag Spaced Out Radio. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for taking the time to share with us. Because together, my friends, we own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo train has docked for the night. But soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we've got room for them too. Good night. Solid show. Solidly good radio there. Solidly good radio. I'm not going to lie. That was a good show. Hi, Melinda Leslie. Hi, Melinda Leslie. Hi, Melinda Leslie. Melinda Leslie, I am. I have to make an important phone call in 15 minutes. So I'm probably going to have to get out of the chat early, which I apologize. Meatloaf, I would do anything for SOR, but I won't do that. We're still trying to figure out what that is. Nobody really knows. Super Duke. Super Duke got famous tonight. Hope you had a good interview tonight, buddy. Bombshell, no, you won't be able to participate in this call. I'm sorry. Oh, there's B. Hoff. Probing time. You don't have to go home, but you can't probe here. Probing time. Yeah. There's Dry Toast, the best name on YouTube right there. Thank you, Shar. Hey, Aussie Rob, how's tomorrow looking? Actually, now it's later today. Give us an update. How's them ham hocks? It's always showing off his ham hocks. Sovereign Farts was a good name. I'm tired. I'm sleeping in tomorrow. No alarm for Dave. Love you, Jordan Ashley Pettit and Travis DeLuca. They seem like normal people until you get them out in public. Woo-wee, the rumors we've heard. We'll just keep those to ourselves. Rumors. Mm-hmm. Thanks, Fabster. Gorgeous Jules. I know you love. Where did the lovely and talented Kara McIver go? She was here moments ago. Did we scare her off with the beard oil commercials or what? Swear to God, I don't have bad breath. See? It's true. And copy, paste right there. Good night, Jose. That's the start of the show right there. Looks like the start of the show. Comes number 2. Mennonite Abe, do I ever get tired of doing this every night? Yes, every single night for the last 4 years. I'm too stupid to quit. I have too much fun. Oh, I have something I want to ask. We are looking to add another member to our booking team. And we have a great team going with Dirty Filth and Alaska's greatest athlete, Emily Bigelow. But we're going to need one more because Dirty Filth has found a new daytime job after being out of work due to COVID. And we're going to need a little bit extra help. So who would like to, if anybody out there would like to help us and join our team, it is work. It's not just about the title, it is work. And would like to help us book some guests, you can contact me privately. Do not contact me in the chat room. Contact me privately, and we'll be able to see if we can get something set up for you. How does that sound? Oh, Jules, I absolutely love you guys. Absolutely. I'm the luckiest radio host in the world, man. That's the truth. Not paid, volunteer position. You must sign a non-disclosure agreement. Dave, your head is looking extra big tonight. Who got in a ram goat headbutting session, me or you? Oh, dude, my head may look big on camera. Okay, look at the size of my head here. Now let me show you what FAP would look like on camera. Hey, everybody. I'm sitting 7 feet away, but this is the size of my head. Just saying. You can't make this up. There's a reason why FAP can't go into the produce section in summertime, because all the old ladies grab his head and start squeezing to see if he's ripe. Jordan Ashley Pettit, come book for us. Jordan Ashley Pettit wants to be a part of Space Out Radio. I don't know. I'm just teasing. Take some audience questions. Hey, Fap, you feeling, is that jaundice or are you just not right fat? Fap, not fat. Fap, oops, sorry. Is that jaundice or are you just not ripe? Let me know. Yeah, Duke, I need a couple for August. Could ask anytime you want. Yeah, Blaine, we only had on a couple months ago. I try and space them out a little bit further apart, if that makes sense. Crux Rux, how's it going? Fap, you have like 2 minutes, man, to roast me here because I am literally having to go take a business call right after this. It better be worth my time, Fap, because right now you're only worth about 99 cents a pound. Hurry up, Fap. I don't have all night. I'm waiting, brother. I'm waiting. All right. I hate to do this, everyone, but I do have to cut this short because I do have to make a business phone call here. Believe it or not, a lot of times when I say I'm making a business phone call, I'm actually making a business phone call in regards to the radio show. I got to talk to a potential guest here right after. I said I would call them after the show, and they've just signaled and let me know they are home. All right. So tomorrow night on the show, we have Merle. Merle is back, everyone. Merle. Yeah. Ghost of the Great White North. Special guest, Matt Lay from the Budutu Effect. You're going to love Matt's beard. Howard, how you doing, man? So thank you to Minister Elaine ×2, Cat Chaser ×2, YJ, Fapster, Apollo, and Chad for the amazing super chats. I love you guys. Thank you, all the veterans out there who tuned us in. We love you. And, of course, all our regulars in the chat room. We'll talk to you all tomorrow as well. Merle, tomorrow night. See you later, guys.